Hi, I'm Sandra at artypapercrafters.com. I'm pleased to be sharing my tutorial with you today where we are making this gorgeous little gift bag, and it's got a little velcro fastening and you can put any little goodies in there, jewellery or chocolates. And so we're going to get on and make this, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel should you like the projects I'm sharing with you. So let's get on and make this little gift bag. It's made with the free celebration stamp set called Avant-Garden. You can receive this or choose it as a free product when you spend in my online shop for a qualifying spend of £45. There are 12 products to choose from, and this is called Avant-Garden. Very, very pretty little stamp set this. It's photopolymer so you can see through it, and we're going to stamp this on our bag today. So let's crack on. So I'm starting off for our little bag with, let me just bring you out a bit. We're starting off for our little bag, or purse, I'm calling it a purse. And I have a piece of very vanilla cardstock measuring 11 by 5 inches. And we are going to score it on the long side at 1.5 inches, 5 1/4 inches, 6 3/4 inches, 10 1/2 inches, and then we're going to turn it to the short side on our board, and we are just going to score it at 1.5 inches, and that's our scoring done. So let's move the board out of the way. Before I fold it and burnish, we are going to do some little hand stamping. So I have already prepped up on my block this little stamp here, and we're going to stamp that design all over our paper. I'm using rose red ink today, and I'm going to stamp off right. So this piece, these little pieces down here measure 1.5 inches, and I have sized this up so that this fits just nicely on that space there. And what we're going to do is, using our rose red ink, we are stamping off first, and then we are stamping down onto our bag, and that's what we get. So I think I might have stamped off twice, you know, so let's try that. Let me try that. Just the once, we're stamping off just the once. And what I've done is I have faced it one way and then faced it the other. So one's that way, one's to the right, one's to the left. And we're doing that all the way along our bag. So when you start back on this second line, remember to face it the opposite way. Pretty this little stamp is. Very pretty. I love it. There's not really any point in stamping on this edge here, because that's going to get, that little strip there is going to get stuck round, so you won't notice that. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stamp a little one there to fill in that little space at the edge. And that is all we need to do on that little purse bit. So let's move that to one side, and now I've got my little stamen, Let me show you that on the stamp set. That's the little stamen just there. So I've prepped that on my block and I'm using this full strength. Full strength. So let me bring you down a bit so that you can see what I'm doing close up. Remove that. Let me show you that up closer. Can you see how I have put the little stamens in on the bottom there? Cute, aren't they? Cute. So we just go along and put our little stamens in on all of our flowers, and I think that gives them faces then, if you know what I mean. It gives the flower a face. That's enough of that then. Let me just clean off my stamps using my scrubby. Brilliant thing, this Stampin' scrub. I wouldn't be without this for cleaning my stamps off. It's perfect. Perfect. And beautiful quality too. Right then. That's our stamping done for our bag. So let's pack that away for the moment. And then we're going to now burnish all our score lines. So Celebration has now been going since the beginning of January, and it's just an amazing offers at the moment. Amazing. Right, so we've got a little skinny bit here which we don't need, so we're going to cut that out and get rid of that, and then we're just going to cut up each of these score lines. Like that. And we need some fast fuse I'm going to put on here because it's good and sticky. Piece of fast fuse on there and stick that down, and then side panels in, and where we've got our seam we need our bottom part to come over towards that. Bit of fast fuse on the bottom there. What's happening with this? I need to go. It's all. Oh dear. Never mind. I'll get that working later and stick that down. So that's nice. And then pinch the little sides in towards the top like that. And that's our cute little bag made. And now we're going to do the top part, and for the top part, for the top closure, I cut out one of my layering ovals, and it's the biggest one in the set. I've used my scalloped layering ovals. I've cut that out, and now we're going to fold that over in half and burnish that, because this is the closure for our bag. And on the closure I've put one of these gorgeous little lacy doilies. You get, how many now? You get 24 of these lace doilies in the pack, and what I like about them is that one side is cream and one side is white, so you can make it coordinate with your projects. And what I've done is I have glue dotted that on. So let me get my glue dots. They're here somewhere. I've used glue dots to secure that on. So where you've got the little gaps there, just stick a glue dot on there. And I think what I did was, where's that gone? What I did was, I got my glue dots and folded them in half like that. Can you see that? Folded them in half. And then I put them on these little spaces here. And I just used about half a dozen or so for that, so that I could stick my bag down well. My doily rather. So I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but today it's absolutely freezing outside. Freezing. So there we are. I've got all my glue dots around the outside edge. And what we're going to do now is, I positioned my doily so that the front had just part of it and the back has a bit more and is sealed down a bit more. So seal that down, and we need a bit of glue. You can use any glue that you have to hand. And the best way to tackle it is to make sure you've got the front of your bag and position that halfway point across so that that's equal distance from either side, and then press that down and over on itself, and then that will be good and stuck. And then you can see that's nicely stuck. And then I've finished that with a Velcro fastening, and these are called hook and loops 13mm white self-adhesive dots, and you can buy these off Amazon. You get 100, so that's brilliant, and they're not very expensive, just a couple of quid. And you get your hooks on one side and your loops on the other. So you take one of the loops off. Where am I? Take one of the loops off and you stick it onto one of the hooks like that, and peel that other one off. Position it where you want it on the top of your bag like that. Fold that down, press that down on itself and give that a jolly good press like that. And then getting your fingers, pull that up, and then I just press that down to make sure that that's good and stuck. And that's our little Velcro closure. Brilliant. And I finished it off with a ribbon bow in Very Vanilla, because we're coordinating our colours, and this is the satin ribbon, 1/4 of an inch. You get 9.1 meters on here, or 10 yards, and it's really pretty. And I've made my little bow with that. So where's my glue dots on? Here they are. A glue dot on there, and secure our bow on there. And then I've used one of these Falling in Love embellishments, and can you see how gorgeous they are? Aren't they just sparkly and gorgeous? Oh, they're so pretty. You get, how many do you get in the box? You get 12. You get 12 of them, but they're just so pretty. Gorgeous. So we'll take one of those out. And we'll stick that on with a couple of glue dots. Make sure that's good and stuck. And position that on there. And that's lovely and sparkly. Finishes that off nicely. And now we need our sentiment here. So let's move all these bits and bobs out the way. Get rid of that. We don't need that scratch paper anymore. So let's do our little sentiment. And I'm using my rose red ink to coordinate it with it again. And on my block today, I've prepped up Happy Birthday Wishes from that same stamp set, Avant Garden. What have I done with me? Piece of Very Vanilla. Here it is. So stamp that down and get my foam pad, because you should always use a foam pad when you're using photopolymer stamps. So we're pressing that down there. Hold it for a couple of seconds and off, and perfect. Clean it off with our pad. Put our ink away. I want to get my fingers stuck in that. And I'm now going to bring the Big Shot over, because we're going to cut that out. I'm going to just pull you out slightly again, because otherwise you won't see the Big Shot. And for those who are not familiar with a Big Shot, well, what is a Big Shot? A Big Shot is a die cutting machine that you can use to not only cut dies, but also use it to cut with your embossing folders. You get embossing folders that you can use with that as well. A brilliant piece of equipment. Absolute must for the crafter who loves to craft, like me. Right then, I think that I'm going to use this one. I think that fits perfectly. And let me just check this other smaller one, just to see if I want to do it small. Do you know, I think that fits perfectly, so I'm going to use the smaller one. So plate on, second plate on. You can see that it's well loved and well used, this Big Shot. You just move that on, push that through, and the little handle. You can see it's got a little handle this side that you turn around. Right, move that off. Get that out of the way. Take this off, and you'll see that's cut that out perfectly. Away, we don't need that. What have I done with my other one that I cut out? It's gone walkabout. Okay, here it is, here it is, here it is. So these are the layering ovals. So I cut this smaller one out. So this is the smallest one here that I used to cut that sentiment out. And I layered that up on there with that one. And that's cut out in the rose red, because we're matching it all up. So a bit of wet glue on there. Stick that down. Bring in our bag. We'll use a few dimensionals on the back of that to pop that up. Stick that down about there. And that's our little purse finished. So if you would like any project details, you can click on the little down arrow description bar if you're watching this in YouTube. If you click on the project details there or my online shop, that will take you over to artypapercrafters.com, where you will find loads more ideas and inspiration, as I do many other things, cards and things that I don't do videos for. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel, and it's bye from me for now, and I'll be back in a couple of days with another video. Please don't forget to click on the playlist at the end of this video for other videos of mine that you may like. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Bye.